Hello, my name is Jonathan Carroll, and I am an ADD, ADHD, and executive functioning coach. For more information on my work, you can visit my website at www.adhdefcoach.com. Today's topic is ADD, ADHD, and boundaries. Let's talk about personal boundaries, and let's use two examples of that. The first example is a personal boundary for communication. Let's say that you need to talk to somebody. Do you call them all the time? Do you consistently email or text them? Or do you give them their space? Well, in 99% of cases, it's usually the best idea to give someone their space. I'm an adult with ADHD, and when I have a question, darn it, I want an answer too. I understand that. But we have to respect the fact that sometimes people have other things going on, and our questions aren't the biggest priority on their list. So here's the rule that I try to follow for myself. In almost all circumstances of questions that I have to ask, I will send an email, a text, or call and wait 24 hours. Now, if someone doesn't get back to me within 24 hours, it's certainly an appropriate move to contact that person a second time. But I'm not contacting them every 15 minutes until I hear back from them. That makes the person very uncomfortable and creates a real negative boundary that you don't want to have happen. So you should oftentimes wait at least 24 hours before responding to someone again. Now, there's some situations that can't wait. For example, if my children get sick and I need to get hold of my wife, sometimes that's something that I need to be a little more persistent on and cross that boundary of communication. But that's a totally different story and something that's out of the realm. But from 99% of times, usually the best rule of thumb is to ask the question and wait within 24 hours. And if you don't hear back, then ask it a second time. But what about other kinds of boundaries? Here's a second example of a boundary that's a little more difficult. Sometimes people with ADD and ADHD have a tendency of becoming very, as many people would like to think, obsessed with certain activities. Video game playing, perhaps playing on their phones, a lot of things to do with technology. So how do we set that boundary of an appropriate use of technology time and becoming more of a concern? A lot of parents I meet with say their children will sit there and become obsessed with video games. And for the most part, the reason why they're obsessed with video games is because they don't do a good job setting boundaries. Instead of saying, you can go play video games for, let's say, a half hour, they say, why don't you go ahead and play video games until we have dinner? Well, there's no specific boundary set. The most important thing you can do for a young person, and this carries through their life, is say, okay, for the next half hour, you can play video games. And then after that half hour, we're moving on to something else. Set a time boundary for what somebody can do. Because if you make it open-ended, the person will consider it an open-ended request. For more information on my work, you can visit my website at www.adhdefcoach.com. You can send me an email to Jonathan, JONATHAN, at adhdefcoach.com. You can call me at area code 773-888-ADHD, 773-888-2343. Follow me on Twitter at ADHDEFCoach. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.